Let's be honest here. Fighting games are very hard, and even good players lose. So getting frustrated and leaving a match, I can understand that. But you guys are doing it too often. I've been in the Tekken subreddit and I'm seeing how often people are getting plugged. And I'm like, wow. I thought it wasn't that big of a problem until it happened to me. And that's when I'm like, oh, they're plugging at low ranks. I don't play ranked. I only play online because I'm not comfortable yet. But if you are plugging in online matches, there's no rank. You're not going to lose anything. It's a widespread issue. So for those of you that don't know, Tekken has an issue now where players keep leaving the match when they think that they're gonna lose, or if you're playing a character that they just don't want to fight, like maybe King, maybe Victor, they see that you're playing one of those characters and they're like, hey, I don't want to fight this guy, I don't want to fight this character. But here's the thing though, it has gotten to such a high point that so many people are plugging, including big YouTubers, right? That Harada himself actually said that, hey, we got a list of people that we're gonna ban. Those pluggers, we're gonna ban them. No, here's the thing for me. It is good that they're gonna ban them, but I don't know if they're actually gonna ban them. We're gonna have to wait and see if they actually get banned. But I still kind of think, Bandai Namco put themselves in this position when they didn't implement some sort of deterrent or penalty for people leaving the match. No, it could be a simple oversight or something that they were going to address later on. And I think the latter makes more sense here because there is actually a display in Tekken where it will show you the disconnection rate of your opponent before you start playing them. And you can decide, do I want to play with this person or not? So it'll show you their disconnection rate. So you can actually see how often this person disconnects. To me, it kind of makes sense to leave that for after you've launched the game and you can see how well the network connection is. It makes sense to hold off on that a bit because waiting to see how bad or good the internet connection is for a test scenario is different from the entire world, right? The entire player base in reality. So I can kind of see why they would make the decision to like leave that for later. Or maybe it was just an oversight, right? I'm just trying to be fair here and play devil's advocate. No, it's bound to happen to some degree that there will be people that literally disconnect because they have poor connections at home. Maybe they can only play on Wi-Fi. Maybe they have a questionable ISP. Maybe their PC isn't that good and it shuts down and then, you know, they disconnect from the match. Fair enough. But there's going to be a certain threshold that you're not going to pass, right? And if you're playing online, to some degree, you understand what kind of internet connection you have if you can even play. So people who have a really terrible internet connection, maybe they won't even play online or they won't play that long. Compared to a plugger. So a plugger, they're going to have a questionable disconnection rate. And I say questionable because in Tekken, you can actually see the replay and see when somebody disconnects. So if you disconnect from, let's say, the start or the middle of the match, that might be more than likely, you know, a technical issue that you can't really fix or you have no control of. But if you're disconnecting at the final round, nah man, you're unscrupulous. You left because you were gonna lose. You're a sore loser. That information is there. I get you wanting to leave because it's frustrating, but there's data to show that you are leaving because you're going to lose. And there's literally a video playback in Tekken. There's a replay feature that you can see who left the match when exactly. I don't know how long it stays on the, you know, the servers that Bandai Namco / Tekken is using, but the information is there. And now they've compiled a list possibly using that information. So in the past, you could hide behind the players that legitimately have disconnection issues or internet issues or technical issues. But no, with this information, it's hard for it's hard for dishonest pluggers to hide behind the legit people who are having technical issues. So like, honestly, they got the information to legit ban somebody. Harada and Michael Murray have created a list of people that they want to ban. The chickens may have come to roost here. Okay, so Harada actually has made a tweet saying that Michael Murray has sent the development team and me a huge Excel list. The file name of that list is list of people to ban, and it contains a lot of pluggers, particularly bad people and those who brag about their plugger behavior on social media sites. They are circled in a red bloody box. I'm not sure what that exactly means, because if everybody on that list is supposed to get banned, like that's supposed to be intimidating. Like if you're on the list already, you're supposed to be getting banned. But it shows that they're actually looking into this, unless this is a bluff. But this is pretty serious, given that the game is still pretty new and they're going to go through a ban wave this early. It might set the precedent and then they're going to ban more people in the future. Personally, when it comes to playing online games, like I have come to the resolve that you're going to lose. It's perfectly normal for you to lose. Now, I have played people better than me and I have lost to them in Tekken 8. And I've accepted that loss and decided I'm going to learn more and going to practice mode. When you plug, you lose that. Instead of you accepting your loss and deciding to get better, and even like learning from the match itself, you just plug, you go to our next match, hopefully try to get another win. You plug again, and you just keep plugging so that way you can keep getting wins, but you don't actually learn from your mistakes. So you're going to stagnate as a player. It doesn't make sense to me. If I want to keep growing and playing and getting better, like losses are where you learn your mistakes. It's also interesting when you think about the fact that if you are a plugger, right, and you're only playing against people that you can win against, especially in ranked, you're playing to win and you're playing for ranks. The higher you go in your rank is the more likely it is that you're going to lose, because you're not learning and growing as a player, and you're playing against better people because you literally like scrubbed your way to the top. So instead of you skilling your way to the top, you cheated basically. So you're going to plug more and more and more because you're facing more stronger opponents. You're putting yourself in a very bad position where Bandai Namco can actually look at the player data and see how high of a disconnection rate you have, and they can see a correlation between your disconnection rate and the rank that you are. If your rank is going up and your disconnection rate is going up, that indicates some fishy behavior. It's so sad. And you know what? It shows how poor of a character you are. Because this brings up to me the memory of Nii. Nii, one of the best players in Tekken. He played Tekken against a cheater in Tekken 7. They were playing a modded version of Kazumi. They were playing the boss version of Kazumi. And Nii could have easily just left the match. Nobody would have batted an eye. But you know what Nii did? He stayed in the match. He frustrated the cheater. And I think he actually won the match against somebody that was hacking the game. You see, that kind of mindset is the mindset that will help you to become a champion, as opposed to just plugging. But anyways, I wanted to also talk about the fact that this needs to be addressed before it gets any worse. If there are no penalties for leaving the match, more people are going to leave the match. And in social media, you have people literally showing that they're leaving their matches, nothing happens, they're gloating on their bad behavior. So it ruins the sportsmanship of the game. In implementing your fixes, I understand that people that have technical issues legitimately are going to get caught. They're going to get caught in the crossfire, which I kind of feel a way about. I feel bad about that. But at the same time, if I was playing and I knew that I had subpar internet connection, I would be okay taking a loss if my internet disconnected while playing a match. Because I've been in the situation where I've had bad internet, and if I lose because of my disconnection, yeah, it's annoying, but I understand that that's a part of my situation specifically. And I would be okay in a single player, not single player, but in a one-on-one experience like Tekken. If I left and I lost, that's okay. Because, you know, I left and the other person got the win. I can play again. But in this situation, what's happening is that people are leaving the match, and then the person that didn't leave, they're getting a penalty. They're losing their win streak, which is pretty unfair. So there are people that are going to have issues with either scenario. But currently you have people that are not doing anything wrong, being a victim of people plugging, which isn't cool. So adding the penalty of if you leave, then you lose, I think that's okay. I think that's pretty fair. And I would be willing to accept that if I was the person that actually had legit disconnection issues. And I also understand that even if you have legit disconnection issues, like bro, you can work around it. You can work around it, because I remember having disconnection issues, you know, in the past when I had poor internet, and I would try to play at a time when there are less people at home using the internet so I could have a smoother connection, right? Doing stuff like that actually helped. And I think people with poor connections will do that. And even with poor internet connection, even with technical issues, it doesn't happen that often. Like you could play 10 matches straight and not have a disconnection because it's that intermittent, right? It's not a consistent thing. But people who plug, the higher they go, the more likely they are to plug. So you can actually see that information on, well, Bandai Namco should be able to see, the developers should be able to see that information. And then they can make the judgment call of this person is plugging unfairly. Like they have that information that they could look at. So I also wanted to look at some possible solutions for this. Because I don't think it's just cut and dry of you banning people. I think banning the people who are bad actors is good, but I also think implementing deterrence is also good for the long-term health of the game. So let's say a player disconnects. What would be some penalties that could be implemented? Keep in mind, these are just my ideas. They might be stupid, might be brilliant, but it's better to start thinking about possible solutions as opposed to just complaining. That's the kind of mindset I have with things sometimes. Anyways, number one, if a player disconnects, it would result in a loss for the player who leaves. Plain and simple. So if you do leave, the opposing player wins and you get a penalty. Problem with that though is hackers that might try to force you to leave so that way they win. Right, so that is one caveat there. My second option would be a timeout period for people who leave multiple games. So if it is found that you keep leaving games, after a while you'll be put in a timeout period where you can't go into any online or ranked matches, maybe even both. But having that sort of detriment is pretty good to prevent people from constantly trying to disconnect from matches. My third solution is to fix the disconnection rate measure tool or display that shows you how often a player disconnects. So that way, if you are playing against somebody with a pretty moderate or high disconnect rate, you can decide, hey, I don't want to play against you because more than likely you're gonna disconnect if I start winning, or maybe you just have a bad connection. I don't want to have to deal with that. So I think that is good to give the players a choice to decide who they want to play against. My final option here is basically to create a server or to create a separate room and put the bad actors. So people who are constantly disconnecting, constantly plugging, and you're looking at the data and you're seeing that they're literally leaving the match when they're about to lose. You put them in a separate pool and let them play with each other and continuously plug against each other. So hey man, if you keep plugging, you're going to end up in that pool. Additionally, I think you should have some metric to take those players out of the pool, such as they're playing for a long enough period and they're not disconnecting, but other players are disconnecting. So you can reasonably put them into the normal queue again and see how well their disconnection rate stays. If it remains consistent that they're not disconnecting, then they can remain in the normal queue with everybody else. So I think these are some good options that, you know, we can probably think about implementing. I'm not the developer of Tekken. I don't work in the backend, so I'm not seeing what data they're seeing. But this is just like ideas that I think would work. And it comes from the mindset of trying to prevent people from plugging in the first place and also adding penalties for those that do. And finally, this might be snitching, but you can snitch on them. You can just report players that disconnect. Like the feature is literally there at the end of every match. So you can go ahead and do that. All right, so there's recently been an update to the whole plugger situation, and it's not very good. So in the recent patch notes, they are including measures to deal with people that, you know, leave or cheat in ranked. Here's what it says. Measures against players discovered cheating in ranked match. High-ranking players who were reported multiple times and were found to have cheated were removed from the leaderboard, and their ranks were reset to beginner. This is not very good because now you're putting these people that leave matches into the lower ranks with people that are new and may not even know that the plugger situation is a problem. So newer players are already trying to learn Tekken, just at base. That's a pretty lofty goal, to learn Tekken from scratch. And now they're going to have to deal with people leaving the matches mid-match. Additionally, these people are probably mid to high rank, so they already have some experience in Tekken. And they're gonna curb stomp these kids. Like, they're gonna curb stomp the new players. And I think that's very unfair because that's putting the pluggers in a situation where, you know, this is just clicking to me. You're putting these mid to high ranking players who are leaving matches against players that were better than them You're putting them against newer players. So they're going to have an easier time basically sweeping these new players. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's right. So going forward, is there going to be a penalty for leaving? I don't think they said that in the patch. But I think this also leads back to an idea that I had, which was they're not going to punish the pluggers too much because they're not going to ban these people. They want to keep them in the game. So that way, when the Tekken shop is released, and you can see it right here, the Tekken shop will be implemented in this patch. When the Tekken shop is released, they want to have as many players in the game as possible to spend money in the shop. And if they ban players, then that's going to reduce the amount of people that are in the game who are willing to spend money on the game. Yeah, I don't think this is actually very good. I think this is... I don't know what to make of this, besides you're trying to protect your profit incentive.